Welcome, everybody, to Hot Takes on the Lake. I'm Josh, joined here by your host, Nick. We are two lifelong Browns fans, and today we are talking about the Browns versus the Patriots in Week 6 here in the NFL. The game just finished about an hour ago. Lasted really long. Went until almost 4:30 Eastern Time. And, Nick, all I really have to say is it sucked. It sucked to watch this game. It was honestly terrible. I'm someone who, also watches Red Zone on another monitor, and if I didn't have that, I don't know how I would have gotten through this game, to be honest, because I was near the end of the second half just kind of glancing at our game every once in a while, because of how bad it got. So what were your initial thoughts on the game?
Um, yeah, I mean, it sucked. Yeah, I can't really put more on it than you did right there. Yeah, I tweeted out it felt like a mid 2000s type of Browns game, like where Phil Dawson would at least keep us on the board with a couple of field goals, but other than that, we were just getting completely manhandled, especially in the second half. Just every facet of the game, special teams, offense, defense. We couldn't run the ball, really couldn't throw the ball at all. Couldn't stop them either. So I mean, it felt like a game that I had seen one too many times growing up watching the Browns. It's like I said, just you could always count on Phil Dawson to like get us like 6 or 9 points just on field goals. But other than that, it was just embarrassing out there.
Yeah, I mean, the start of the game, we'll get into it obviously, but anytime you go into halftime and it's 10-3, that's not dramatically out of reach. You think like, okay, not the best half in the world, but we'll live with it. Let's see what happens. And then the whole second half was just all Patriots the entire way, and it was both ways. First we got to give credit to the Patriots. We both came on here last week and said we didn't think they really even had a chance of beating us. Maybe we weren't that extreme, but we definitely didn't predict it, and were very kind of at a loss of how they would beat us if they did. And we have Zappy, the rookie quarterback, throwing for over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Stevenson, their running back, getting 76 yards and 2 touchdowns with a 30-yard run for one of those. And, all of their receivers, getting in on this. They had 4 receivers with more than 50 yards in today's game, more than 60 yards, actually. So from an offensive perspective for the Patriots, they did great. I mean, they had some drives where they stalled out. Obviously there were some drives where, our defense did hold up and force some field goals. But for the most part, their offense was able to do really whatever they wanted, especially in that second half. And then on the other side, the Browns also just killed themselves with their own mistakes. I mean, as good as the Patriots played, way above expectations for me, I feel like the Browns actually still could have won this game, but it was just mistake after mistake on what seemed like every drive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had missed the first drive of the game. And what was it? Brissett's. It was the second play of the game where he threw the pick on there.
Yeah, so we had one pass twice in a row to open the game, pass to Harrison Bryant. Always love that, right? And then on second down, we do an actually a pretty good play action because you would think we're going to run on second down there to open the game. So I liked the play call, but immediately the rush was there on Brissett, and something about him. I don't know if he feels more pressure because of how these games have gone, but it should have been a throwaway play. He tries to force it, and immediately I could tell like that. Well, that's underthrown, and I was just hoping it would hit the ground, but it gets easily picked off. And that wasn't the only time that happened with the underthrow today, but that was probably the worst one because it just started the game with a pick, and it was terrible.
Yeah, yeah, and that second one, I think it was in the second half too. It's like as soon as he let go of the ball, he just got clobbered by the defensive end, and it was just another underthrow, an
Mm-hmm.
easy interception for Mills. Um, yeah, and one thing I was really surprised with was even early on. I mean, you could just tell that like they were not going to let Nick Chubb and especially Kareem Hunt, but Nick Chubb in particular, beat us or beat them, I should say. There were just no holes open in the middle of the line whatsoever. We couldn't get outside at all. We were just getting pushed back. And it only got worse once Wyatt Teller went down with the calf injury and had to replace him with I can't remember what that guy's name was, but obviously it was going to be a struggle. And by that point, I mean we are throwing the ball mostly anyways. Brissett ended up with 45 pass attempts. So once Teller went out, I think the run game kind of just went out the window, and rightfully so. You kind of have to try to get back in the game, but yeah, this was just just looking at the stats here. It's just a complete failure on every level. I'm trying to think of something that we could hang our hats on, but I really offense, defense. I mean, Cade York, made a couple field goals, so hey, it's good that he's not just missing everything now.
Yeah.
At least maybe that'll help his confidence a little bit.
And
Um,
they were long too.
Chester,
I think they were
yeah,
pretty long field goals too.
yeah, exactly, and we all know just how unpredictable the wind is in Cleveland Stadium too. So that was good. Chester Rogers, whoever that is, get him off special teams. He had that one diving catch that I mean he almost should have muffed it, and then ended up did muffing the one towards the end of the game as well. And then another one, I think he dropped another one. It was a kickoff, and then he ended up having to pick it up and run with it, obviously, and then got like clobbered by at the 15-yard line. So find somebody who can return punts and who can be reliable on special teams, not to give it up. Um, but yeah, like I said, it was just from beginning to end. Even though this game did take a while, like you said, I just like I don't know. Maybe it's just like PTSD from all these Browns losses, but I'm just like trying to like push all the negative stuff out. But like I feel like I can't like remember anything from this game except like the few like horrible plays where it's just like frustrating. Like I just want to like put my fist through the coffee table or something like that. It was just completely forgettable. We just had no momentum. I mean, except in that last drive where we had the long play to Peoples Jones ended up scoring, then trying the onside kick, which we almost recovered. Other than that, and from an effort standpoint, there was just none the entire game.
Yeah, and yeah, so there are definitely individual plays that were good to see. I mean, you mentioned Cade York with the field goals. I was just checking on that. I think he went 3 for 3. Yeah, 3 for 3 in the field goals, long of 51. So that was nice. But there were individual plays like the Donovan Peoples Jones play. It was actually two separate fourth down plays. The one to Donovan Peoples Jones, and then to finish the drive to Amari Cooper touchdown in one of the craziest catches that we've seen in a long time in Cleveland. Great catch, touchdown catch from him. And I don't know why Brissett on fourth and short can throw these super accurate back shoulder passes, but then any other time cannot. It's very weird to me. And it's funny because on both of those throws, I was like, it's fourth and short. What are you doing? Throwing it this deep. And then it paid off both times. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's what they're trying to go for. But it's like, it seemed every single fourth down or even third and short, they're throwing these deep balls. It's like, just it's okay to run it sometimes. And you brought up the running being stopped. It definitely was for the most part. But I mean, he went to Nick Chubb, 12 carries for 56 yards. He did have an 18-yarder, I get that, but that's still a 4+ yard average. Like he wasn't getting, negative runs every time. And I know once you got really, really late in the game, you're not going to be running it when you're down by multiple scores necessarily. But it's not like I felt like there was a little bit of a non-commitment to the run today. Like we would run it on first down, it would get stopped, and then we just wouldn't run it again the rest of the drive, or we would just come out and pass and just go 3 and out. And I just thought that was very weird. It was almost like we didn't want to run against this team today. I don't know. It felt very odd to me. Hunt only got 4 carries. Like there's no way we were down. We were not down big early enough for Hunt to only have 4 carries. So that was just really weird to me.
Yeah, and I think that's a an issue we've seen the last couple of seasons, not just this year, is like yeah, the games where we end up losing big, yeah, when you get down by, 2 or 3 scores, yeah, you kind of have to throw the ball. You can't be running it as much. But like we've seen, I feel like this game a million times over the past couple of years where we just don't, like you said, we don't commit to the run early enough to even try to like get it going whatsoever. Like you said, Chubb still was almost averaging 5 yards a carry. And maybe if we would have kept with that, it was still a close game, at halftime and even though into the third quarter, we were still in this game, so there was no excuse just to abandon the run completely, which we obviously did. Like you said, Hunt 4 carries, and I mean, I feel like I saw Hunt a lot there, out there a lot. So I'm surprised he only had 4 carries. So those obviously were passing plays, and again. Hunt is supposed to be like an elite receiver, which he is out of the backfield, but we just never seem to use him like that. Um, and on that last drive where Peoples Jones had that fourth down catch on the sideline, yes, it did work out, but also Hunt, Hunt did a little stop route, like 3 yards past the first down. He was wide open. I mean, if he would have just checked down right to him, it would have been an easy throw. Regardless, it doesn't matter. We still got the first down, but I mean, that's just like kind of indicative. Like trying that tough play down the sideline when you just need a few yards and you have a guy wide open and we miss him, I feel like it's just it speaks volumes. And even before that, um, on one of the drives again, I'm fuzzy. I can't remember what happened in the game. It might have been right before halftime where we had 3rd and 1, and even the couple plays before that, we just tried like two shots like right to the end zone. Obviously incomplete, didn't matter. And then 3rd down, we try pass to Cooper, which was kind of in traffic, didn't go anywhere. Again, you had two timeouts left with about like 30 or 40 seconds left. Why not run the ball, at least get the first down? And maybe if you have to take a timeout, sure, fine. But at least you have a new set of downs to keep going. So again, the play calling was so all over the place in this game. Again, I mean, besides that, I mean, Brissett was still, like I said, 45 times throwing for him. He was just going downfield way too much. I don't understand. I think he's proven by now that his downfield accuracy is just spotty at best. I mean, he'll hit one every once in a while. Even that play to Njoku, if he hits him in stride, he walks into the end zone, but he underthrew it, ended up, being tackled on the sideline and getting a big gain. But yeah, again, the play calling just had me scratching my head. Again, I feel like it's just, a common theme we've been talking about every week.
Yeah, and I mean Brissett, he went 21 for 45. So it's like even if you take away the two interceptions, which the second one I don't obviously you don't want to see an interception, but if you get hit while throwing it, there's not much you can expect there. But you take away both interceptions, that's still 21 for 43. Like that's still less than 50% completion rate. I mean, I don't care if it's garbage time or if it's a close game or what the case is, you should not have a below 50% completion rate. Like something is not working there if that's the case. And I think the eye test would show it's because he's taking so many unnecessary deep shots. And my only guess would be that that was their plan because they must have thought our receivers, could beat their secondary, and there were times where they did, but it just clearly wasn't good enough to, have a good game plan, and we just really couldn't adjust, it seems like. I did also want to point out on the defensive side, Myles Garrett did get the strip sack fumble. Good to see one of those from him again, and then he did get a second sack before, unfortunately, getting hurt. I don't know if it was, how serious it was. Like, he got up and everything just fine. It looked like it was his arm. Don't know if that's related to his prior injuries or not. Hope he's all right, but he did have a pretty good game, and I know he is now the all-time sack leader for the Browns. So sucks for that to happen in a loss, but want to congratulate him for that.
Yeah, absolutely. He passes Clay Matthews Sr. for the all-time leader in sacks for team history. Um, it looked like it might have been his shoulder. If so, that's not. I don't think that's a good sign because I think the last couple of weeks he's already been dealing with shoulder pain already. So if he did more damage, I don't think that's going to be good, especially with Clowney being banged up these last couple of weeks and him kind of being week to week. It seems like. Um, but yeah, the offense. I mean, and also again, the last thing I'll say is that Cooper made a couple of plays, but really he just kind of got locked down, unfortunately. And I feel like he's been a real, big go-to guy, especially with the run game not getting established. You needed some big plays out of him, and unfortunately they just weren't there. And credit to I think it was Jalen Mills who was on him most of the game. Did a good job limiting him as and even just targets as far as not just counting receptions. So not a big game from Cooper. But I just do we even have to talk about the defense? I mean, I mean we've been talking about it for almost pretty much every week here, but I mean this was just absolutely atrocious, just atrocious. Like there's not many times I think a defense is just embarrassingly bad and just not giving any effort, but you could just see there was just little to no effort for most of this game on defense.
Yeah, I mean, I know I come off a lot of times, at least in my opinion, I think I come off as a defensive apologist because I mean, I think I realized like, look, this is an offensive league, so it's like I don't expect our defense to come out and lock teams down to single digits every week. But with that being said, first of all, they scored 38 points, which I don't care how bad our offense is, you can't let the other team score 38 points. But when you look at it, we had four turnovers, and they held them to 10 points in the first half, and again they had a really good defensive stand at the goal line after Brissett threw that initial interception. The Patriots go all the way down to the goal line, and our defense stops him and holds him to 3 points on the goal line. That's a win every time for a defense, and I'm thinking things are going good early. I remember at halftime thinking like, well, points wise, our offense has not gotten going, but our defense is at least keeping us in the game. And in the second half, that fell apart. But I think, you do also have to understand. It's like from a defensive perspective, okay, we go out there, we've been stopping them all game, and now we throw a second interception. Okay, and then we muff a punt, and then Jacoby Brissett just loses the ball while he's throwing a pass, and we turn it over, and then we get an on, and this isn't the offensive fault, this one, but we get an offsides, or not offsides, an onside kick, but we touch it out of bounds and we don't get the ball. So now the defense has to go out there again on a short field. Like, my God, how much can you really expect from these guys at that point? We've been talking about time of possession. We lost the time of possession today 25 minutes to 35 minutes. That is a gashing. That's a 10-point time of possession difference from a run-first team. So it's like, yes, the defense was absolutely bad today. You have a rookie quarterback throwing 300 yards on you, but I'm still going to give them a little bit more slack than I think most people, because, I mean, what can you really expect with, the performance that the rest of the team put in?
I think that's fair. And I don't think you're being an apologist. I think you're being pretty realistic about it. I will say though, um, we saw this week that they really kind of went back to like basics, like back to like high school football, doing just like tackling drills because, as we had said, that the tackling has just been lackluster at best. It's pretty much non-existent for most of the team. So I mean, doing that, what, 5 games or 5 or 6 weeks into the season is not a good sign. That the tackling issue is already being addressed, and it was another problem again today. Just so many guys just literally throwing their shoulders into people. I mean, just expecting guys to just collapse and fall down. Like, I'm sorry, that works in college when maybe you might be the biggest and the strongest guy in the field, but you know what? Everybody in the NFL is like that. You got to just wrap up and tackle, and these guys just refuse to do it. I don't know why. Um, that one play, the 3rd and 10, they draw a play, doesn't even really get touched, and just walks into the end zone. The secondary guys really just, again, taking horrible angles on these run plays. I just don't understand it. It's just like once they get past the line of scrimmage, there's just nobody, because there's guys always out of position, like John Johnson and Grant Delpit. Grant Delpit is absolutely horrible. I mean, I, you and I we're fans, so I mean, I don't care if I end up being, right or wrong in the long run. It really makes no difference to me. But I'm just gonna say Grant Delpit is absolutely terrible. He's been a major disappointment this year. Um, Again, coming out of college, people thought that he could have been the steal of the draft when we got him. Really could have been one of the best young safeties in the league, and he's just constantly not tackling well, constantly out of position. It always seems like when there's a blown coverage and there's a guy wide open downfield, Grant Delpit is the guy that is closest to him. So, I mean, I would imagine it's probably his guy that's always getting open. Again, I don't know if he doesn't know the defense, if the defense is too complex for everybody, and he's just, it's a problem across the board. It's not just him, but I don't know. Something's got to give with him on defense because he's just not working out at safety. John Johnson, another guy who, is always a vocal leader. Vocal leader you'll hear in the locker room and stuff like that, but on the field he's been a complete waste of time. A terrible free agent signing. Again, another guy that, if you're that vocal, you should lead by example. Another guy who shows, 50% effort, most of the time. Just really, it's just disappointing that, if you're playing your ass off and you get just beat by somebody else, then fair enough. But I mean, if you're just going in there and you're half-assing everything, giving minimal to no effort, then I have no respect or apologies for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. And I think what sometimes what I'll tend to do is, I'm watching the game, and not that I'm not paying attention to what's going on in the field. I'm not happy with it, but I'm always a look at the scoreboard person, I feel like, and I'm looking, a lot of times I'm looking at it, and when I'm watching the game, it's 20, we score that touchdown in the fourth quarter, and it's 24 to 15, and we go for two. Which, by the way, this shouldn't even be an argument, but the commentators talked about it, so I'm just going to say it really quickly. You absolutely go for two in that spot, because then you know if you need to score two more times or not. You don't wait until the end of the game to go for the two. Every single time that happens, they bring it up, and it's just like, the old head mindset gets under my skin every time. You should have gone for one and go for two if you score again. It's like, and then if you don't get it that time, you're just done and out of time. But anyway, but we go for two. If we get the two there, it's a one-score game, and we don't get it. So now it's 24-15. 9 points, still not, you can still, come back in that. Our defense forces a 3-and-out on the very next drive, and we muff the punt. They get it and score. We get the ball back. We fumble it on the second play. They score again. So it's like, okay, yeah, our defense probably gave up a little bit at that point. I mean, let's just be honest about the situation. Like that's the kind of what I look at, and it's like, not that I want to throw away the first 3 quarters because it was not good. But me as a fan watching it, that's why I get more frustrated, I think, with the offense, because it's like, yeah, if your defense goes out there and gives up 30 points in the first half, yeah, there's nothing you can really do. Like, you're gonna blame them, but regardless of their poor play, you were in a position where you could still score and win, and our offense just couldn't do anything. And like, not only could they not do anything, they were like hurting themselves in confusion every drive. It's just, and I'm kind of lumping in special teams with offense, so I feel maybe I shouldn't do that. The onside kick and the muff punt, that is special teams, so that is a problem too. But yeah,
Yeah, I hear you, and yeah, I'm completely in agreement with you because as far as the 2 point conversion, because I mean, just based on how the entire game went, it was hard enough for us to get into scoring position in the first place.
yeah,
So while you're down there, you might as well try to get as many points as you can. Is my mindset. So I think that's a dumb argument just to say, "Oh, take the one." Well, I mean, Cade York has missed a few extra points this year anyway. So I
yeah.
mean, that's still not even guaranteed nowadays. It's not like how it used to be. So I think that's a pretty dumb argument. But yeah, I think yes, lack of effort for sure was a major problem on the defense. And also, like you said, it didn't help that they were out there so often. Um, it seemed like every time, the last like 5 minutes of the game, again, I was kind of like going in and out, like, oh, this game's over, whatever. I'll just scroll Twitter, whatever. And it just seemed like every time I would look up, the Patriots were just getting the ball back, either just on a fumble, on a muffed punt, on, yeah, like you said, Brissett just like throwing it and then just his arm just completely folding and dropping the ball, and then another fumble happens. So it doesn't help when the defense has to be out there for so long. Um, but I just, again, I see when they are out there, you still just have to, if it's a blowout, fine. But for most of the game where it was still kind of close and you could have maybe gotten a couple of stops, maybe could have played back into this game, there was still the same lack of effort that I saw when the game was already out of reach and you knew what the outcome was going to be. So that's what the major problem is for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with you. And again, I'm not saying that the defense played well. I'm not defending them in any way. I just think,
Mm-hmm.
as someone watching the game, I was so much more frustrated today with the offense and kind of the team effort as a whole. That because, and I think I even said in the preview, I'm like, Jacoby's been kind of progressing week after week, getting better, and then this was just a complete regression. I mean, he looked like someone who shouldn't even be playing in the league today. I mean, it reminded me of some of the bad Baker games. Like it was really bad. I think one even got batted down at the line, and I had PTSD for a moment. But but yeah, lastly, I think Bill Belichick just owns us. I don't think it matters how bad his team will ever be. When we fired him, he just decided that day that he will not let us beat him, and I will celebrate the day he retires, at least from coaching. And got to give credit to the Patriots. I mean, they came out and played a good game. I got to give credit to them too.
Yeah, I mean, Bailey Zappi was looking, I mean, he was looking like Tom Brady out there. He was just throwing
Yeah.
all over the field, was doing whatever he wanted to do. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, unless we have Peyton Hillis on the offensive side, we just can't seem to beat the Patriots ever. So, besides that one game with Colt McCoy and Peyton Hillis,
Yeah.
um, and again, it's never like it never seems like it's a close game. It's always just like at least a 20-point win for them. It just, yeah, again, it's not the same ownership. It's not the same people that fired Bill Belichick, but he's just, yeah, whenever he plays the Browns, he always brings his A game, and he definitely brought it today. Yeah, and again, hats off. I mean, that's another thing. It's like, yes, there was a major lack of effort on the defensive side, but also the Patriots played very well. They played very well on both sides of the ball, so credit to them. Um, and yeah, we just flat out did not deserve to win. Even if we would, I think, have played, with a lot more effort and tackled a lot better, I think it still would have been a very close game because the Patriots were just, they're still solid. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, they're not as elite when they still had Tom Brady, but still, when with Mac Jones or even Bailey Zappi, they're still going to be a solid team. And I will happily say that I was wrong about that. I thought it would be the complete opposite this week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to be winning their division or anything this year. But
Yeah.
I think they could end up in that that hunt for that seventh spot in the AFC for the wild
Hmm.
card. We'll see. Um, but I do want to. I try to be optimistic on the show, and I do just want to remind everybody. I mean, I was scrolling through Twitter today, and oh my goodness, I understand Twitter's its own thing, but it's like people on there wanting, I mean, people are already have wanted Joe Woods fired, so that's its own thing. But people are on here being like, fire everyone tomorrow. Let's see what Deshaun has in the last 6 games, and then we'll get started with new coaches next year, like all this stuff. And even if you're not the biggest fan of Stefanski, like, people need to calm down. I mean, I know it sucks. It's awful losing 3 games in a row in any situation, but I feel like people understood the expectations. At least I did, and I thought people did. Like coming into the season of like these first 12 games, you shouldn't expect to be really good. You literally don't have your quarterback yet, and then our season's really going to start week 13. The question is just, can we just stay head above water until that time? Right now, it looks like maybe we can't. Maybe we won't be able to be around 500 by that time. But we're 2-4. We're not 0-6. We're not 0-5. And I know, and I think before going in today, our 3 first losses were a combined like 6 points. So we weren't coming out here getting blown away. And I think people just need to calm down a little bit because what's happening right now, outside of it sucking in the moment, literally doesn't matter. Like week 13, like we're going to have a new team because that's how important the quarterback position is. So it's like, yes, these flaws, especially on the defensive side, are still going to be there. We got to work on them. Let's work on them week to week. But in reality, it's like people out here wanting to throw away the whole front office. I don't know. It's just very reactionary to me. The Ravens lost today to the Giants. Believe it or not, there's no one in our division with 4 wins. So it would have been awesome to go, to be 3-3 as well. But this is not the end of the world. So we'll talk about the Ravens game obviously later this week. But I just wanted to kind of throw that out there because I feel like sometimes Browns fans get really hurt and reactionary and like they want to throw the season away. If we go 0-2 the next 2 weeks against the Ravens and Bengals, okay, I'll be on the train with you. The season's over for sure. But until we get to that point, I'm just not ready to like throw in the towel right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I think that's something that's not necessarily exclusive to Browns fans. I think it's just sports fans in general
Fair.
where, the person they need someone to blame, they need a scapegoat. They see Stefanski and Joe Woods and they're like, "Okay, well, you guys are to blame, so I don't want to have to sit through the rest of the season, so just get rid of you now." Even though like I said last week with Joe Woods, like if you fire Joe Woods, this isn't going to turn into the '85 Bears defense. It's not. There's still going to be the same problems. Hell, they might even get worse, honestly. If you fire Kevin Stefanski right now, I mean, what's going to change? Nothing. And then you're not going to hire Sean Payton right now. No, you're going to have an interim coach, one of the assistants, take over for Stefanski, and then you're going to have to do yet another coaching search. I mean, do we really want to do that? It's just I understand it. Again, it's frustrating, and you want someone to blame, absolutely, but these types of decisions they have to be thought out and they have to be made in the off season. They can't be made in season and expected to change. I mean, obviously I'll take that back. I want to clarify because like obviously Matt Rule, like
Yeah.
yes, like that situation was bad. He had to be fired, but like
And they were 1-4 though.
yeah,
So
exactly. I think your team is like that bad. Like Hugh Jackson, yeah, deserved to be fired, but like Kevin Stefanski did take you to the playoffs. There's still the hope where when Deshaun Watson comes back that he will be able to take this team to the next level. So it's not like okay, get rid of Stefanski, get rid of the coaching staff. We have to rebuild. It's like, no, these changes, have to be made in the offseason. I think obviously Joe Woods' job definitely is on the chopping block. But again, if you want to do that, do it at the end of the season or when the season is over. Because doing it right now, if they go to him right now and say, hey, you're done, the defense isn't going to change. There's still going to be the same issues. Um, yes, scheme wise, I mean, I think a lot of the issues on defense are because of that and his defense and what he's doing out there, but also he's not the one who is, having piss poor tackling efforts week in and week out. I mean, that's not his fault. So that's still going to be there. Again, it's alarming that this early in the season we already have to address bad tackling and go back to, even before high school or middle school football, like, all right, guys, we're gonna do tackling drills now. It's like it's just like, that stuff is not going to change. So I understand it on one hand, but on the other hand, you can't expect everything to just turn around just because somebody is going to get fired.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're completely right about it being every fan base. It actually reminds me right after I finished watching the game, I went on TikTok and came across a popular Baltimore Ravens TikTok account. And obviously, like I said, they lost to the Giants, and they're up there saying that Greg Roman needs to be fired today, and John Harbaugh is on the hot seat. Here they are leading the AFC North. 1-0 in division games, and but I get it. It's frustrating. They don't want. They think their standard for the. I mean, they do have their quarterback, right? So for them being 3-3
Mhm.
right now is not acceptable. But you're totally right though. It's very funny to see that around the league from fan bases when things aren't going their way. For sure. And then secondly, I also want to clarify what I said too when I was like, hey, the season's not over now. If we lose these two divisional games, I'll agree. Look, even if the season is over from a postseason perspective, neither one of us came on here and predicted us making the postseason this year, and I don't think any Browns fan should have come into the year realistically thinking, all right, this is our year to win the Super Bowl. Like, of course, you want to have high hopes every year for your team, but like to think that, what was your standard for Kevin Stefanski? If we don't win the Super Bowl, he's fired. Like, where was your line? You know what I mean? Because if we came out and went 1-15, 2-14, well, I'm sorry, there's 17 games now, but you get my point. If we won 1, 2, 3 games by the end of the entire season, okay, maybe let's evaluate some things. But we're out here 2-4. This is our first really bad loss of the year from a scoreboard perspective, and people want to throw everything away. So I think it's just a little bit of an overreaction. And at the end of the day, this season, people just have to remember. I know it sucks right now in the moment to say the season isn't. It's kind of a mulligan. Like, it's kind of like we traded for who we think is going to be our quarterback for the next decade, and he can't play for 12 games. You know what I mean? So it's like, what do you really expect? I mean, Patriots fans, when Tom Brady got suspended for 4 games, thought their season was over, and then they went and won the Super Bowl. So it's just like, I think fans need to calm down a little bit.
I mean, yeah, Tom Brady has played full seasons, and they're thinking, "Oh, they're not gonna do it. This is the year where Tom Brady falls off the cliff or whatever," and then they end up winning or at least getting
Mm-hmm.
to the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, like you said, obviously we didn't predict the Browns to make the playoffs, let alone obviously win the Super Bowl or anything. Um, it's still frustrating, absolutely, but you have to,
And it's not acceptable. I'm not saying it's
yeah,
acceptable.
yeah, exactly. And there are major issues that still, regardless if Deshaun Watson was playing this season or not, there would still be these same issues that have to be addressed. I'm not saying that they don't, but again, yeah, you just can't expect to have a backup quarterback who's average at best and just expect to, run the table. That's just not realistic. Um, and I think again, yeah, like Kevin Stefanski, I think deserves at least a full season with their franchise quarterback that they have. And if it doesn't work out, then you can reevaluate his job, absolutely. But again, I think people just have to lower their expectations. I mean, maybe we didn't say it this way, before the season in these exact words, but like I was already kind of looking forward to 2023 anyways. I mean, I didn't expect much. I didn't expect Deshaun Watson to come back and just be, the same Watson that he was in Houston all those years. That's just not realistic. So I was expecting us to struggle a lot this year. Yes, it still is frustrating. Yes, it is because we have to watch it and talk about it every week. So it's still frustrating as hell. But I was looking forward to next year and next year really being okay. Now you got to put it together because yes, you have a talented quarterback, a bona fide star. You don't have, a guy like Baker Mayfield where sometimes he looks like a star, other times he looks like complete garbage. You don't have Brissett out there who is a good journeyman and who can come in there if your quarterback gets hurt for a game or two and keep it afloat. Um, I think people just need to lower their expectations and just be patient with this season. Um, and I think people are again, yeah, even though nobody in their right mind would have picked the Browns to win the Super Bowl, I think we all have to, sit down and realize that, yeah, nobody thought the Browns were going to go all the way this year. You have to be realistic with what this team was coming into the season, what the pieces, and even that, even with Watson, there are still holes on this team. It's not like okay, we have our quarterback, it's a complete team. No, there are still holes. There are still interior defensive line issues. There's still linebacker issues. There's still secondary issues. You need another good receiver. Um, you need always need offensive line help. So this still wasn't a complete team, but I think people just need to relax a little bit. Um, and again, it's still better than all those years with with obviously Hugh Jackson. I mean, my God, and then all those years with like Romeo Crennel and Eric Mangini and all this shit that we've been through. This is still a much more talented and much more watchable team than any of those teams ever were.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, you were in there, in every single game we played this year, whether we won or lost, until today. Today was the first bad loss, and I totally get that sucks. But, me personally, we'll talk about it later this week about the Ravens game. But these two divisional games coming up, I'm not sitting here saying I'm 100% confident we're going to go 2-0, win both of those games, but I'm not expecting us to come out and it to look like this. Like, I'm not expecting to be blown out in those games. So, we just got to move on and wash our hands of this one. It sucks, and kind of just get back to it next week. I do think that I am a little bit excited just to get October over with because we're going to have these two divisional games, and then we have our bye week. And then obviously we have that tough slate after that. But I feel like we'll be a little bit more clear after. Going to that bye week, we're either going to be, going to be 3-5, 4-4. Worst case scenario, 2-6. And I know that it's only a couple more games, but at that point in the season, you really do start to see like, okay, what teams are really not having a shot this year and what teams can try to make it. And, I think even at 4-4, or I mean, even 3-5, you look at it and go, okay, let's try to get a couple more wins before Deshaun gets here and see what we can do. So if we end up 2-6, though, it'll also kind of feel like a weight off our shoulders. Like, okay, this team's not making it this year, but let's just enjoy it game by game and see what Watson has. So either way, I'm going to be much more, I think, excited once we get to that second half of the season. But we got really two tough games coming up that we're going to be covering, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why, at least for me personally, those first couple of losses were so frustrating because those were the games where you could get those wins early because this stretch coming up is really tough and we didn't have either of us really had many high expectations for this. I mean, the Ravens are always going to be tough. The Bengals, for some reason, we've always had their number, but I mean, it's completely unpredictable. They're still a really talented team. And then obviously the Bills, Miami, Tampa Bay, even the Saints are looking good as well. So there's a lot of tough teams in the second half of the season where we've already could have put us in a decent spot as far as win wise. It's just I'm just nervous. Again, if we're sitting here at 2-6, 2-7, 2-8, and it's just like okay, it's gonna fall off the wheels fast. I'm not looking forward to that. Again, even though like we just said, we kind of tempered our expectations already, but still, I know what the reaction is going to be. I know what the fans are going to be like, and rightfully so. It's frustrating. I mean, it's going to be another losing season. I mean, another one in the last 22 years since the Browns have been back. So it's frustrating as hell. It's going to be a tough stretch here. But again, I think if we um, just stick to what we've been doing, stick with the run game. There is talent on this team. It's not like we're overhyping these guys. There are talented players on this team. If they give maximum effort, if we do the things, if we call smart plays that we should be doing, I mean, we can still compete with most teams in the NFL. I still think. So that's my one bright spot sitting here today looking forward.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. I think there's maybe that Bills game is going to be a rough one. But
Hmm.
besides that, who knows what's going on with the Dolphins and Tua's health and everything. I hope he's healthy. I hope he gets back soon. But who knows? We'll
Yeah.
see when we get there. And then even the Bucks. The Bucks just lost today to the Steelers. The Steelers are one of the worst teams, not only statistically, but just when you watch them. They're like one of the worst teams in the NFL. So, like, they beat the Buccaneers today. So it's like, I know that's the old cliche, it's the NFL any given Sunday, but I honestly do think it's going to be fun, regardless of the record and regardless of our postseason aspirations. It's still going to be fun watching the Browns and looking forward to watching them every week. But it's obviously going to suck when we lose, especially like this. But all right, that's going to be our thoughts on the game. If you're watching us here on YouTube or if you're listening to any of our podcasts on an audio platform, either way, make sure to subscribe so you can join us for every game here this season on Hot Takes on the Lake.
Yes, in much more pleasant news, the Guardians are playing the Yankees tonight, hopefully to win that game. get to the ALCS, and we have the Cavs starting up soon. That's why I have my Cavs shirt on, because I'm damn sure was not going to wear a brown shirt on this show after today. So, yeah, obviously follow us on Twitter at Hot Takes 216, on Hot Takes on the Lake on all their social media. Again, stay tuned. We'll probably try to do a live stream for one of the games coming up against. There'll be some good games to talk about as well in this stretch. There's some pretty high profile teams, so stay tuned for that. We'll let you guys know when we're doing that. But we'll talk to you guys later in the week, previewing the Browns and Ravens. So we'll see you then, and yeah, go Browns.